Hi, welcome to Coffee and Conversation podcast. My name is Patrice Tevis. I am the founder of Coffee and Conversation and a licensed and marriage family therapist. Today, we're talking about Black men and fatherhood, how it impacts us as all of us in the community, as individuals, how it impacts children, Black children, and what we can do to maybe perhaps improve the myth, if it is a myth, that Black fathers are not in the home and they're not present. Let's introduce ourselves, starting with Mr. Maurice Geddes.
Well, thank you for that. Maurice Geddes, licensed marriage family therapist.
Oh, is it? Okay, good. Mine's Jamal Rowe.
And I'm Keon Johnson, founder, CEO of YMO US My Hours.
Mr. King, the Gardens Family Care Community Center, 22 years.
Okay. So Jamal is representing a Black father, a Black husband, and a Black son. Okay.
Absolutely.
We're good. All right. So what do we have to say about fatherhood in the Black community? We never blame. We explain, we discuss, and we try to improve. Okay. So
I'd like to start. So
Okay.
I first want to take this moment to just honor my two sons that preceded me in death. One 10 years ago, and back in October, I lost my oldest son to natural causes. He was born with Down syndrome. He made it to 38,
which is a long time.
which is a long time for that community. So being a father has been one of the greatest moments, periods, times in my life. I wouldn't have had it any other way. My boys were not mine biologically. I married their mother when they were toddlers and raised them to adulthood. And we were able to get through all of that in marriage and had a family, all of those things. And what was most important for me, being their father, was that to be an example for them. I got to meet some of my son Byron's friends when he passed last year. And I heard all of these stories about how he carried on in terms of how he did business with his peers and the things that he involved himself in. And one of his friends came to me and they said, and you know, Mr. Lewis, because they always called me by his last name, right? And they said, Mr. Lewis, he's just like you. He wanted to do everything like you. We always said, why is he doing that? Because that's how my dad does it. So I realized more than anything else that I was always example to my boys. Mm-hmm. And so, I just wanted to kind of give that acknowledgement to them.
Yes,
I think about them every day. And while we're having this discussion on fatherhood.
So you all are fathers, right?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Girl dad.
Girl dad, it doesn't matter.
Girl dad is like a whole different world.
It is different.
It's very emotional at times being a girl dad.
It is because girls.
Because girls.
Do you think it is a myth that Black fathers are absent in the homes and in the community, or is there some truth to it?
Well, for me personally, my mom and dad separated when I was I was 7 years old. So I didn't actually have my biological dad around on the summer when we would visit him when he was out in California. But I was fortunate enough that I had a great-great-granddad, a great-granddad, and two uncles. And I think it's very important that Black men, young boys, have dads around them, Black men, someone they can emulate and see that how it is. Even though I always had to, because my mom and my grandma, they raised me, but I still think it's important as I got older, because I know some parts of me that wish I had my dad around me at certain times.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I answer the question by saying yes. I think it's true that there is an absentee, and it's not for. I don't think it's because of. It's not a choice. I think there's other situations or circumstances in the communities that we were raised in that create this separation, and lack of support. So in other races, might have a little different support system than in the Black communities. So in the Black communities, depending on the type of money you make, the support system, that person has to work and or provide.
Yes.
And that providing, if I don't have an education or if I have had situations where my parents weren't never around, that how I provide might not be legal, might be a struggle, it might be successful, who knows what it might be. But because of those things, it kind of, society kind of helps to derive, to separate. And when it separates, we don't have the resources necessary to continue to be resourceful for our children. So I think there is a true missing link of African Americans that are males in their home. Now the importance of it is it creates lack of guidance, lack of structure, and those are two huge things that I think anything needs to grow successfully. Anything, structure, plants, outside, a dog, a human, right? We all need this thing called structure and consistency. And if there's no fatherhood around, it makes it a challenge for to provide that.
You can get structure and consistency from a mother and or a father. I want to add the "and" to that because it's true and it's not true. We're not a monolith. We exist in so many ways. You know, I think the narrative, they like to say, there's no Black man, there's no father around, there's no Black man, there's no father. I think it likes to be said, but I don't necessarily think it's true, especially in today. And these, you know, I forgot the stats or whatever, but there are more Black fathers present today than there was in a period. And the thing is, Black fathers has always been in the family and in the household. It's always been due to racism and structure when fathers were taken away. If you look at crack, crack period it blasted generations out, and that was strategic. Crack was placed in whether the family, you know, when you're on this end or that end, but we don't ever talk about crack in itself. But if you talk about today, there's more Black fathers present. Right. If you look at during slavery times, you know, when we were in bondage, Black fathers were always present. All the structures, all the talk of Black men not being in the family, in the house, is definitely because of the society and structure.
And even and that,
always been present.
That could partially be true. You know, we talked about the welfare system was kind of created to divide and all that kind of stuff. But so what I like to talk about today is what we can control, what our choices moving forward do to the situation.
So that lends itself to the when the Black man is absent, not the volume, but when the Black man is absent in the home, it's noticed. So when the Black man when the father is in the home, it's different. And it's different for all the reasons you guys just said. We got 2 girl dads here, maybe 3. I raised my niece. She lived with us too. And she lived with me until she was married. And she uses that example that she was raised under in my home. She uses it in her marriage. She uses it in raising her kids. And so it matters. Our presence has influence. It has an impact. It does. And that's the one thing that we really, really need to stress upon is our influence.
And that has everything to do, pardon me, like you have in home and in life.
Yes.
Was your father in your home or in your life?
That's
true. The absence
it's still in your life.
It's still in your life. Yes. You know what I mean? Still has impact and all those things. You know, versus absent, dead or in jail.
Right.
You know what I mean? In your home.
Well, even if he's in jail, he could still be in your life.
Right, because it's the same thing. Like, you know, if you take a white family and, you know, the father's not in the home, but they're in the life, are we saying you never had a parent, you never had a dad?
No.
The language is totally different. You know what I mean? So,
but statistics in our culture show that we don't marry as much. We rarely marry. Yeah. And so it's in our most relationships nowadays kind of seem to be instant. You know, you can kind of just get rid of it all, start all over again. And but you brought up a good point. You don't have to be in the home to be present in the lives of your children. But even that, are we present in the lives of our children? And as a culture, enough. You know, I just want to improve on the things that we can. Are we showing up? Or, you know, there's this whole, I'm going to talk about some social media stuff because it seems that's how people get a lot of their information nowadays. You know, I don't want to give child support to the wife we're talking about how we communicate now. I'm going to give it directly to the child because I don't want you going out buying anything from you and all that kind of stuff. We're talking about parenting, proper parenting. Doesn't matter if you're in the home or not. Are we doing that kind of stuff? Because that helps divide. You know,
Even though my dad and mom separated, my dad was still in our lives because, I mean, we lived in Georgia, he lived in California. He come get us every summer and take us back to California. So he always made sure that, you know, he provided for us, even though my mom and I were separated. But the part that I think that's discouraging me more now in today's world, I see a lot of men, and I'm just going to say like black men, having kids by so many multi women, and they're not in the life of any of these kids. They just out making more babies, more kids. So now we have these young men, because I actually have 3 young men I'm talking to now that we in a chat that, you know, one of them dad makes lots of money, but he's not even in the child lives. And I mean, not even there. So to me, that is a complete absence that we have in our community where black men, some black men are not stepping up the plate. You're making a baby, but you're not being a father.
I don't know if you know, here I go my different thoughts. So I think the
Difference is
example,
good.
Yeah, for sure. But the example that you gave, unfortunately for me, would be an absent father.
That is absent father. That's my point.
Coming in the summer and picking me up and having fun with me.
That's still. You think that's still absent?
I'm a challenge that is still somewhat absent because you're there for the fun, but those long nights of doing that 8 times 1. What is it, son? 6. No. 8 times
You're
1.
not there.
Like anything times 1 is that number. What is 8 times 1? 4. Okay, those struggles happen between, let's say, September and May. Right. So me in the summer, I can make up all kinds of stuff for my kids to do in the summer. We about to have a good fun time. So I'm the fun dad. I need to be the dad.
The dad.
Right. So I'm challenging when we talk about fatherhood and things missing, is everything from when they struggle, and then how to balance the fun, how to balance the relationship that they need to see. That so they can emulate when they get older with husband and wife or whatever the relationship is in the home, to the balance of being able to come home from work and cook and provide. Like that, there's so much more than just being present.
So I have to push back on that because my mother and father made a conscientious decision to separate. My mom wanted to be in Georgia with her mom, and my dad did not want to be living in the South with those Jim Crow laws back in those days. He wanted to be in California where he felt that he was a free black man to live a life, and because the life that I have, he would never be able to give me that life that I have if he'd have stayed in Georgia. That's what I personally believe. So I never felt like he was an absent dad because my dad made sure that when he got paid, even though he was in California, he made sure my mom had money. He sent us money. He was a communication. It was like I only saw him and we didn't talk until the summertime. We talked.
Absent means absent. Absent means you're gone. Where are you? Poof, where's my dad? It's the dynamics, and you have to allow room for dynamics. Now, if you have a functioning relationship, it's like you said in the summertime. They're not dead in the summertime. They're spending time with them. It might be more time here, more time there. You're talking about the dynamics that actually goes into, you know, the day-to-day grind in life, but you certainly have opportunity.
The emulation, right?
The emulation part, yeah.
But I mean, you could conceivably have a father in the home and still be absent.
100%.
So what if it's a father that's in the military traveling the world? That's
I thought about that too.
Those are those situations that create separation.
But it depends on how the child feels. Like if you felt your father was there, then that was a good thing. You know, I mean, some kids might not feel like that, but it's because our dynamics of families have changed. We are not always together in the same house. So how do we parent apart from the physical home? And can we do that successfully? You know, when you go off and make a new family, are you still interested in the kids that are part of the family?
You have to have.
And those are some real questions and even some real issues in our community.
And it starts with sacrifice. Somebody's going to have to sacrifice something.
Yes, sir.
Right? And sacrifice means possible uncomfort.
Yes.
Right.
So who do we want to be uncomfort? The adult for the child, right? And if it's my child, I would prefer to be the uncomfortable and not the child, which means I might be in the scenario where I am uncomfortable, but because of my thoughts on how I need to inflict my lifestyle, my brain on my child, I will do it because for that. I will be uncomfortable. I will live in that land of uncomfortability as long as it can affect my child.
So that's very unselfish of you, because a lot of people aren't like that. You're talking like the adult that you are. You present yourself as.
Yeah, of course.
Everybody who has children, they're not all acting out of their adult natures. They're acting out of something, but it's the fact that you said sacrifice. If more people thought and felt that way, our kids would grow up differently. But unfortunately, that's not the predominant thought process. There's a lot of other things going on.
So I have a question. If you broke up with the woman who you have children with and it was a terrible breakup, would you feel differently about being a father? Because your relationship with the mother matters in terms of the kind of fathers you are.
Mine didn't. The kids were almost grown.
Well, that's a little different there. But for little kids, and I don't like her, or she cheated on me, whatever, does that impact your ability or to be the best father you know how to be?
It should not.
It shouldn't.
It should not.
And it didn't.
But in some relationship, it does. Because I know men say, man, I ain't giving that B nothing.
Mm-hmm.
She on her own, the kids on their own. I'm talking about, I know men like that today that would say, if they was on this podcast, look, when she don't, whatever you said, the situation was, they on their own. Right. She go get on welfare. I ain't sending her a dime.
You got babies, bro. That's
But there's a challenge with that. That's what we talked about, the system, right? Mm-hmm. So the system does create this need of separation. And because of the system, I might have some anger towards giving $1,000 to a person that on a day-to-day, I see that $1,000 don't go to my child.
If you see it.
And all 1,000 don't have to go to my child, but it could come in form of what they eating at night, right? I may not see it, but at some point, there's things that we know are in society where we give 1,000, and that 1,000, this kid still come over to me with ashy knees, right?
Right.
So then I'm gonna be upset because I see it, right?
Pains.
So those things are different, but those are society changes that will take a father and challenge it, because what's to say that father isn't good enough to have that 51%?
Well, and you can get that too,
right?
Or when that child is used as a pawn, I'm not getting what I need from you as a man. Therefore, I'm going to take it out on you by restricting you from having access with your child.
Right.
That's the other thing. I see that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Then we're back to
anger.
I just want to circle back around this a little bit. I can remember when I was 14 and my dad and I had this really deep discussion, because that's when I was trying to understand the reasoning between the separation between him and my mom. So I remember my dad having me the conversation. This is a conversation I want you to have with your kids one day. He said, the reason I'm in California is because we need to break the cycle of poverty within our family. I am going to be the one to sacrifice all that I have, that I am, to go out here in California, because my dad and grandfather and my family was the first two to ever leave the state of Georgia to come out west of California. And by them coming, I mean, every one of my family members here because of them. So his conversation with me is that I don't want you to have to, because I remember when I told y'all earlier, I used to go to a golf course and pick up balls at the Augusta golf course for $1, a penny a ball, just picking a ball. Because I don't want you guys to have to pick in the back or work in the cotton fields. You know, that's not what I want for my kids. So he told me he made that sacrifice to stay in California. So when we finished school, we had somewhere to go. So that was the sacrifice that he made for us that even to this day, I admire my dad for doing. Because I mean, he was like, he could have stayed in Georgia and worked on some little penny-handed job, and I would never been exposed to the life that I have now.
So I have a question. If you're sitting in a barbershop and a brother's in there talking about, man, screw her, and I just ain't gonna see them kids in. would you speak up and say something to that brother?
Bark on him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm
He
hard.
gets barked
You
on.
gotta be, you might want to talk about
Talk
it.
about your baby. He barked on him.
Right.
This is
Yes.
I'm glad you felt safe enough to tell me that stupid shit. We're gonna deal with it.
Yeah, because it's we finna close the door
No.
and have
No,
a
but you
serious
don't want to beat him
conversation.
up.
Yes, you do.
No, yes,
He's talking about
yes.
I'm
He's
stepping
publicly
back.
saying, I'm going
Yes.
to
And he's
abandon my
probably
children.
asking for it because if he's
Because
saying it in
he
a
added to the
barbershop,
statistics.
yeah.
He added to the
But
statistics.
I mean, he's
yes.
saying that for
He
a
does need
reason.
help.
He need
Yeah,
help.
he needs help.
He
He's
needs
emotional.
help.
Guidance.
He's deep
So
in his
a
emotion.
guidance. So I'm
She
thinking,
heard him and
right? I'm
Right.
thinking
Guidance.
that you need to offer words of wisdom, so you don't
he's gonna get all of
push
that.
him
No,
away.
he's gonna
Get all
get that
of
too.
that.
He
Get
gets
all
barked
of
on all of it.
He gonna get the full force.
Okay.
So then let me ask this question. Y'all think he has a father, that example?
Well, that could be
He
another
may or
issue.
may not.
May
But
or
he got
may
brothers.
not.
You got
Yeah.
counsel. You got
That's why.
But once he
That's
leave
why-
that barbershop that day,
And it may be
He gonna
because
know.
he doesn't have a
He-
father.
he
that
gonna
even
know.
said that.
Absolutely.
he might not
Right.
got father, but he gonna have
Let's
brothers.
have
but
women
there's
for
things-
doing that. We need to be doing
Yeah,
that.
well,
Just
100% I think
giving
that
good,
happens.
just giving wisdom. Pass
I think that
along.
happens, but it goes back. It goes deeper than that, though. So,
Yes.
like the missing of like me, I was raised opposite than most in terms of parents. Like I was raised by my dad, not my mother. So being raised by my dad, my wife would tell you all kinds of things that I'm missing on the sensitive side,
Yes.
right? Because I remember when I was younger. I don't know. I was maybe second, third grade. My dad was like, "Hey, son, 5 before we go to bed now." He said, "I'll give me a little kiss on the cheek. We ain't doing that. give me a handshake." And then, no, that right or wrong, I know today's society is different, but when I was a youngster, I remember that. Like it was a distinct, like, "Hey,
clear that you
son."
marker.
Yeah.
But not even cool.
But so now I God's blessed me with 3 girls and a wife still. And we hug, and they be like, "God, get off me!" And I'm like, "I need to hug. I'm
So you have brothers,
I have all boys.
and you raised in the house with both mom and dad.
No,
Oh, just that.
yeah.
Okay, just
that.
that. Okay.
So we all that way, right?
Okay.
We all now are these little emotional creatures underneath that need that emotional
Yeah,
connect.
I
Right?
like that.
So-
That's right.
So now that we have it, but so where the question of fatherhood, is it needed? Structurally, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially and it gives you something to emulate. Whether you're a girl
Yeah.
Right.
looking for like hopefully, an example of how a man should treat
Yes.
their mama,
Yes.
or how a man should treat their daughter,
How you should
right?
be a man.
Or their son, or how
So
to
my-
handle in this world.
So
My
we're
mom and dad-
almost out of time.
Oh, okay.
So we have to make a quick statement.
Well,
And
real quick.
Maurice is gonna be the last one.
Okay.
Okay. Mom and dad married and stayed married till death did they part. They had 3 boys. And my dad being in the home taught us 3 boys everything from how to treat a woman
Yes.
to how to act in public to how to carry ourselves to how to date to how to just relationship and communication.
Right.
Those
and
were the
and
examples.
you and all of you are gonna spread that type of doctrine.
A healthy fatherhood is very necessary.
Absolutely.
That's his bottom line.
So we're gonna wrap it up with that. And I really, really thank you guys for your candidness. Thank you for joining us for Black Men Are Talking.
Black
Like
men
men are talking.
All right, y'all.